Part 31 of my vinyl collection. We're going to be finishing up the ends within this part. So again, past the halfway point definitely, but still a huge chunk to go. Other than that, what's going to be playing in the background is from a Russian black metal band that is Pesizma, and it's their debut album called Eminence. I gotta give a massive thank you to two of my viewers who recommended me this on my previous vinyl collection part, because I've been just so out of the loop lately with a lot of black metal releases from this year, and they recommended me this thinking it was right up my alley considering all the black metal I really am into, and I gotta thank both you guys for doing so because this shit slays. The best way I can describe it, think of Dissection, Storm the Light's Bane, but the like bestial war metal version of it, because this stuff hits hard, but it still has those infectious melodies. And another thing too that I knew I was in for something good is that this band is signed to the label Antique Records, and this label, if you like just really hyperactive melodic black metal, it's got loads of bands signed to it. So again, thank you guys for recommending me this because I'm having loads of fun listening to it. And guys should definitely check it out if you're a fan of either Dissection or just melodic black metal in general. Starting off part 31 is going to be Niall with their album Verdon Kerman. I got this at a vendor one time when I went to the Maryland Death Fest and bought it solely because of the album artwork, and it just looked black metal. I think it was around either the time I went in 2015 or 2016. And I've kept it because it's just really solid black metal. It's pretty heavy for the most part. The vocals have just a deeper growl to it compared to the high shrieks like other raw black metal bands. Again, it's nothing that's gonna, change the minds of people who don't like this style, but people who do like it, you'll find a lot of enjoyment because it has all the components you would want within it. One thing that really surprises me about this band is signed to a Hydra Head Records, which I just never think of like Hydra Head Records having black metal bands. Like, yeah, they did some releases for Xaster, but it's a label that has a lot more like, I don't know, experimental, kind of like noise rock, grindcore, hardcore bands. So kind of weird that Niall, a band like this, a really raw black metal band, would be signed to Hydra Head. But hey, I'm just kind of like nitpicking, kind of like pointless stuff, I guess. But anyway. As for the layout and packaging with this album, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, double LP that just come on standard black vinyl, along with an insert sheet with lyrics and artwork on the other side. Next up is the demo compilation by Nimbifer. As you can see, this is the test press, but I can assure you it is this band, as the sticker right here has their name. And if you're wondering what the album artwork and band logo looks like, it looks like this, which, not gonna lie, kind of wish I bought the standard edition just solely for the album artwork because it looks really kick-ass. But how I got the test press is that this band's releases is put out through Vendetta Records. Great label, by the way. And what Vendetta Records usually does when they have new releases is that obviously they'll put up the standard editions, and every once in a while they'll have a second option where you can get the test presses. And I figured for $5 more, why not get a test press, be a cool addition to the collection. And overall, it's just really riff-heavy, raw black metal from start to finish that has a bit of a punkish vibe to it. And I would say if you're a fan of like Judas Iscariot in some kind of way, but you just want like a punkish edge to it, definitely check out Nimbifer because the influence is definitely there. But it definitely hits the spot for me when I'm just in the mood for nothing fancy, suit and tie, raw, riff-heavy black metal. So really solid stuff. Other than that, there's really nothing to show because the layout and packaging is literally just a black vinyl and the test press cover. So yeah, that's that. Proceeding on next to an album that I feel like everyone who's watching this already knows, but still, it's an awesome album. And that would be 9 Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine. Come on. You all know this album. Trent Reznor hit it out of the park with this album, along with a handful of others after it. But finally got around to getting this album physically, because when it comes to these big names, I don't avoid them to look cool or anything like that. It's just more the fact that I wait for record stores like Newbury Comics around this area to get copies of this, because I mean, I'd rather buy it in a record store than always buy it through the mail with shipping and handling and everything, because it was only 15 bucks compared to like 20 plus if you get it online. But anyway, I mean, again, this album is just so infectious, and what's funny is there's a lot of jokes online about this album that it's just basically one giant horny post. It really is when you look at the lyrics and themes of this album, and the overall vibe gives off like that nightclub rock band type of thing, but it's just so infectious. Come on, the opening track on here, Head Like a Hole, that chorus is so infectious. Bow down before the one you serve, you're going to get what you deserve. Like, God, I'm sorry you gotta hear me sing, but like, fuck, that is such a, just, oh, it's so infectious. Other great tracks on here, Terrible Lie, Something I Can Never Have, I Kinda Want to, Sin. It's just, like, you can't go wrong with this album. It's something that everyone who's into alternative rock, or I don't want to say at this point it was like industrial rock just yet. It's like he was kind of branching into that style, but damn, it's just like a really dark, like, radio rock album that's just written really well. And one other thing too I want to bring up that I saw on the internet, which is so dumb, and again it's another joke with this album, is that people say like Trent Reznor is like the edgy version of Morrissey. And I genuinely want to drop kick the people who think that that's true. Unironically, you deserve to get kicked in the face. But anyway, 9 Inch Nails, Pretty Hate Machine, you all know it. As for the layout and packaging, I mean, it's pretty simplistic. You have album artwork, backside with track listings, and just comes on a standard black vinyl. Up next is Nocturnity, Harps of the Ancient Temples. This is a Greek black metal band that is usually compared to the likes of Macabre Omen, mainly because it has stuff to do with, you know, gladiators and stuff of the sort. And I definitely can see the resemblance, but how I've always looked at it is Macabre Omen is the black metal for gladiators when they're going into battle. Nocturnity is black metal for gladiators when they're done with the battle, because it has more of like a slow burn kind of feel to it. It's not as fast, it's a bit more atmospheric, but still written very well. And I need to get more by Nocturnity, because they're a really, really solid band, but this is the only thing I've ever come across thus far. But I know they've been doing represses lately, New Era Productions, Iron Bonehead's been carrying a lot of their represses, so at some point I need to get it. But yeah, if you like Macabre Omen, but you want more of a slow burn type of feel to it, strongly recommend Nocturnity. But other than that, this pressing was put out through Iron Bonehead, so as I stated, go there if you want to get copies of this. As for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, and the photo of the sole member. Comes on a gatefold. Double LP that come on printed inner sleeves, so you have side A and side B, along with side C and side D. It also includes an A2 poster of the album artwork, which is really nice. And finally, it has an etching on side D of that gladiator, which looks really cool. After that, I have Nocturnal Triumph, Into Light's Graven Womb. As you can see right here, it is a Go to Works release with the obvious Obi strip. And lately I have been having some distaste for the label, but I gotta always give it up to Go to Works with this release, because arguably this is one of the best releases this label has ever put out. If you are a fan of Walknut, the atmospheric black metal band from Russia, you are going to love this album, because there's a lot of similarities between the two. Although I would say this one's just a bit heavier. It's one of these atmospheric black metal albums that has like aggression, that doesn't feel like just background music after like the first 15 minutes. Super engaging, that will just like consume you with this dark, you know, kind of like semi-raw atmosphere, but it just never gets boring, I feel like. I've spun this album so many times and I just never get sick of it. Tracks in here like The Key in the Stone, which is my personal favorite track, and the title track, Into Light's Graven Womb. Seriously, I can't stress it enough. If you are a fan of Walknut, you will love this album. And as I stated, it's one of Go to Works' best releases. Hopefully they'll do represses, because this is kind of ridiculous that something that sounds this good is like limited to 150 copies. It is a crime. So hopefully one day this label either gets their shit together, or the band Nocturnal Triumph gets on another label, because you guys definitely need to check it out. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, hand numbered. I have number 34, and once again, this comes on a standard black vinyl. Oh damn, dramatic light change, but I definitely had to turn on my ceiling light, because I just realized over the past couple minutes it started getting really dark. But anyway, moving on with my vinyl collection. Next up is, again, Nocturnal Triumph. This is their sophomore album, The Fangs of Misery's Past. Oh, this album is so good. Again, they carry the same writing style that what they did with the previous album, but they just made it so much more aggressive that I would say, from what I've heard, this is honestly one of the heaviest and most aggressive atmospheric black metal albums ever. It has like that, again, really mystical atmosphere you would want with this style, but the riffs, and especially the vocals on this album, are relentless. The vocals just come off way more savage, way more wretch, and just cuts so much deeper. Just has like such a sharp pitch to it that if you're just looking for aggressive black metal with like mystical atmosphere, you gotta listen to this, because it is such a blast to listen to from start to finish. Every track kind of like stands shoulder to shoulder with one another, and they're really lengthy tracks, but for me personally, I just never get sick of it, because the aggression and the atmosphere just kind of consumes you. It's such a good release. Strongly recommend checking this out. And again, hopefully this gets a repress, because it is such a crime that a band that sounds this good has such a limited quantities, because to me that just fucking sucks. And I hate recommending you guys stuff that is just unavailable. But definitely keep a close ear to the ground with Nocturnal Triumph, because they're on a roll right now, as both albums have been really top notch. Anyway, as for the layout and packaging, however, it is a Go to Works release, but it doesn't have the Obi strip, which is kind of a bit odd compared to all the other releases. But you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. It comes on a standard black vinyl along with an insert sheet with just a symbol and a passageway. Nothing on the other side that kind of just comes off like a big waste of paper. Okay, so the next band within this part really makes up a majority of the records to be talked about here, as I have, I think, around a little over half a dozen records by them, and I'm still missing quite a handful of releases too. But they're one of the big names within Ukrainian black metal. And obviously I'm talking about Nocturnal Mortum. This is their debut demo, Twilight. These guys blend folk, symphonic, and black metal together. However, with their debut demo, Twilight, it has more of like a melodic death metal feel to it. The riffs aren't as sharp, it's not as atmospheric. The vocals have more of like a semi-death metal growl to it in a way, that this is just like a really folky, like melodic death metal album for the most part. Sure, there's elements of black metal here and there, but regardless, their debut demo is awesome. It's really something special. And for the longest time, this was so out of print and just going for dumb prices online. But got to give a massive thank you and a shout out to Osmos Productions. This label never sleeps. They're always putting out represses like every week. And the moment that they announced that they would be doing represses for Nocturnal Mortum, jumped on that right away and bought everything that I could, because Osmos Productions is really saving everyone, I feel like, so much money if you want to buy Nocturnal Mortum releases. So if you want to get this stuff along with a lot of the other records I'm going to be showing of Nocturnal Mortum, Osmos Productions, cannot stress that enough. That is the best place to get this stuff. And yeah, as I stated, it's more of like a melodic death metal type of album on here. You have tracks on here like Glass Coffin, Where Rivers Flow into the Seas is my personal favorite track. And On the Wings of Scarlet Sunset is another standout track. Really solid stuff by them, and they would obviously expand upon this within their discography, but you can't go wrong with Nocturnal Mortum. But for the layout and packaging right here, you have album artwork, backside with the track listing. Comes on a gatefold, and this LP edition comes on what's called, I guess, like beer marble color, I think. and it's limited to 300 copies. And also, side note, before I get into the next record, again, just looking at the gatefold like that, that's just early 90s black metal as it gets right there, a photo like that. Then I have Lunar Poetry. This is where I feel like Nocturnal Mortum really gets a strong footing and foundation within the style of black metal. The riffs come off sharper and more of that icy cold sound that we're familiar with when it comes to the styles of black metal. The vocals have a more wretched sound to it. The keyboards really complement the atmosphere a lot better, I feel like, and it's just truly where they go full-blown black metal without really any more of like the kind of like semi-death metal influences they had with their previous demo, that being Twilight. And one thing that's really surprising is that this is categorized as a demo, which is just so odd because it just doesn't come off like a demo. The production value is incredible, the songwriting is amazing. It's 45 minutes long, and for a lot of people, are fans of Nocturnal Mortum, they say that this is just a straight up full-length album, but again, it's categorized as a demo. That if it is really a demo, without really debating it, then this is one of the greatest black metal demos ever. It's just like, how is this only a demo? Because tracks on here like the title track and my personal favorite song, In Winter Becomes, along with Ancient Nations, Sorrows of the Moon, it's like, god damn, man. For a demo, this is incredible, and just as a black metal release, it's incredible. Just overall, a stellar performance of symphonic folk black metal that has that really icy cold atmosphere to it, and you can't do any wrong with it. As I stated earlier, if you want to get this, go to Osmos Productions because they carry all the copies you would need for Nocturnal Mortum releases, because for the longest time this was out of print and it would go for just dumb money. Actually, no, it wasn't out of print. It was just, it never had a vinyl release, I think. It was always CD exclusive. So again, massive thanks to Osmos for putting it on the LP format. But anyway, for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold. This also includes a printed inner sleeve with just pictures of the moon. And my vinyl edition comes on semi-translucent blue, limited to 300 copies. I also have the debut album by Nocturnal Mortum, that being Goat Horns. Just wow, what a start for this band in terms of full-length albums. As when you look at the lineup within this album, there's now 6 members. 2 of them play the keyboards simultaneously at the same time throughout the album, and it just gives this whole release more room to breathe with experimentation. The composition just comes off more vibrant and like hyperactive with the folk instrumentation that kind of dances around all the black metal parts. It's such a creative album that just showed that Nocturnal Mortum came out of the cage swinging with this. It is so good that I strongly recommend it if you are in the mood for something of that, of like symphonic black metal. It's really quite the release. Again, put out through Osmos Productions, so if you want it, go there like everything else that I keep stating. And the layout and packaging with this is really top notch, because I like how they have like this kind of like metallic print foil with the logo, same with the album title, and with the track listings on the back. It also comes on a gatefold, along with printed inner sleeves, so you have side A and B, along with side C and side D. It also just comes on standard black vinyl, but side D of it is etched with the kind of like band logo sigil of it. I also have their 3rd full-length album, that being NeChrist. Yes, I'm aware I am missing At the Gates of Blasphemous Fire, which I need to get at some point. But NeChrist, in my personal view, I feel like around this time is where Nocturnal Mortum was at like a low point within their songwriting, because here is like where they're really putting way more attention to detail with being a more suit and tie, raw, aggressive black metal band. Sure, there's some folk instrumentation and symphonic elements throughout it, but it's kind of just like littered through it to just give off like brief moments of like, hey, we still play around with this, and it doesn't really complement Nocturnal Mortum like they've done before and what they'll do after. Because when I think of Nocturnal Mortum, I don't think of aggression and riffs. Like, that's the last thing that comes to mind. I think of their compositional work. I think of like the symphonic folk instrumentation that they experiment with it that really gives them their own unique identity within black metal. Here with NeChrist, had they started out with this and stayed this way, I wouldn't appreciate them for what they are now, because there's just really not much of a standout thing with it, and it's kind of awkward in some cases, because they're still like, I feel like they're still semi-aware that they have like that folk kind of like aesthetic with them, because there's one track on here, I think it's A Night Before the Fight. It's a pretty decent track, but it's awkward because there's this part where they're trying to play all fast and heavy, and then like the, I think like some fiddler part comes through and he starts like laughing over it, and it's just really weird. Like, I don't know, it's such an awkward track. But I guess some of the standout tracks on here are Death Damnation, The Funeral When Born in Arana, and Jesus' Blood are pretty fun to listen to. But again, it's not really the album that makes me think, yes, Nocturnal Mortum. It's just kind of like a collection piece part. Because I used to have the first press of this, but I gave it away in a trade, and that's how I think I got the KFR record that I have now. But thankfully, again, Osmos Productions did a repress for this and snapped it up right away. As well, too, if you guys need to know, this is probably where Nocturnal Mortum was easily their most sketchy, because the cassette release of this, when it was originally released, was limited to the one and only 88 copies. But I know back in, 2012 or 2014, they denounced their views, so take that as you will, I guess, when checking this out. But anyway, as for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with track listings, comes on a gatefold. It also includes a big ass booklet with lyrics and pictures to go along with everything. And the LP edition I got is on white with black splatter. Obviously continuing on with even more Nocturnal Mortum, but I've always wanted to talk about this record because there's like a story attached with it that I feel like a lot of the vinyl collector nerds like myself watching this can at least admire it. But next up is the 5th full-length album by Nocturnal Mortum titled That, which I can't pronounce, and the vinyl release for it also includes the Taste of Victory EP. So in some sense it's a compilation, but overall, if you want to get the 5th full-length album by Nocturnal Mortum on vinyl, this is the only pressing of it. But anyway, how I got this record is just so ridiculous, because this is again when Nocturnal Mortum was still considered sketchy, and I went to a Newbury Comics that usually is quite a bit of a distance of a drive, but I always went to it because it's the biggest Newbury Comics. And I went obviously to the metal section within it, and I looked at the used bin within it. This was in the used bin at a Newbury Comics for $6 fucking dollars. $6 for a Nocturnal Mortum record? Fuck yes! Absolutely fuck yes! And I go online to plug it in my Discogs, and it's going for like hundreds of dollars. Like, I just want to know, like the combination of how this started. Who was the guy that gave this to Newbury Comics, just being like, yeah, I guess I'll take $3 for it. I don't know what else it's worth. And then Newbury Comics is like, I don't know who these guys are. $6, why not? Like, what the fuck? It's easily, out of every record I've ever bought at a record store, the best pickup ever. Again, $6 for a Nocturnal Mortum record. What? But yeah, anyway, now talking about this album, this was released in the mid-2000s, and this is still where Nocturnal Mortum really wants to have more of like that Battlefield type of sound. So they're still going for the aggressive approach, but I feel like unlike NeChrist, they expand upon it. It feels like an epic battle, so there's more folk instrumentation, there's more symphonic instrumentation that still gives like that aggressive approach, but like that unique kind of experimentation Nocturnal Mortum's known for. So it's definitely a step up from NeChrist, I personally feel like, and definitely worth checking out. But for the layout and packaging within this record, you have album artwork, backside with the artwork for the Taste of Victory. Comes on a gatefold, triple LP, all on plain black vinyl, along with an insert sheet with lyrics and band photo on the other side. And of course, I have their magnum opus, the fan favorite, which is obviously the Voice of Steel. My God, this band went above and beyond with this record. Because even though a lot of people don't say it's a black metal release anymore, as the melodies are just way more melodic and vibrant, and the overall characteristics of black metal aren't really that present within it. So, I mean, again, you could categorize this as a folk album, a symphonic metal album. Regardless, I don't really give a shit because it's overall just an incredible album. Because every single song within this album has like its own unique characteristics attached with it. You have songs on here like The Voice of Steel and Valkyrie that I would say are the more explosive and aggressive tracks that kind of tend to be more of like the black metal approach that I'm used to with them, which is why I still categorize them as a black metal band within this release. But then right after it, you have the track Ukraine, and it has this chorus that is just so soaring that with the clean vocals with it, that it sounds more like a power metal song, especially with the melodies and keyboards, like making it all the more uplifting and captivating. It's such an awesome track. Then you have tracks on here like My Dreams Island and By Path of the Sun that have more of like a progressive type of feel to it. The ambience within the keyboards kind of surrounds it. That makes it a bit more moody compared to most of the explosive kind of like bombastic melodies Nocturnal Mortum does previous within the album. Then after that you have Sky of Satin Nights and White Tower that is just super climactic with the compositional work kind of blending all the styles they've ever done, just all jam-packed within these outro tracks. It's just like everything about this album has its own standout feature. That's hard to believe this was all thought with one cohesive thought by one band. And again, even though these styles are really switched up quite a bit within this album, the overall vibe, the tone, the mood of it never changes, and it's just simply incredible and a masterpiece, I feel like, within every moment within the album. And when I saw that it got a repress put out through Heritage Recordings, snapped it up right away because I've wanted this album for the longest time. And this is actually like the super special edition of a box set, I guess, because it comes on triple LP, because side C and E are just all unreleased versions of these tracks. But again, the layout and packaging for this is super top notch. So you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, spine super thick with the album title and band name. Comes on a big ass booklet with a lot of pages of just album artwork and photography along with lyrics to go along with everything, so it's quite the interesting read overall. As I stated previously, it's a triple LP set, so you have, as I stated, it's a triple LP set and they're all on printed inner sleeves, so you have side A and B, along with side C and D, and finally side E and F. And the vinyl edition I got comes on like this orange marble swirl. And the final release I have by Nocturnal Mortum is their latest album, that being Verity. If memory serves me right, this was released in 2017, and upon my first listen, I thought this album was incredible, as I felt like it was a continuation of that of The Voice of Steel. But after giving it a handful of more listens and all these years later, I've come to have a bit of a distaste for this album. And it's not a bad album by any means, it's still worthy of checking out and getting. But what I've come to distaste about it is really this is the point now where Nocturnal Mortum has really alienated themselves from just metal itself. Like, with everything previous to them, they've always kind of blended like metal and symphonic and folk like all 50-50 evenly. Here, it's really where folk and symphonic outdo the metal portions of this album like 75-25. And it comes off more like a really heavy, aggressive neo folk album as opposed to their black metal blend of symphonic and folk. which I guess is why it's just odd for me now, and it's just not what I'm accustomed to with them when you listen to everything previous to it. But either way, there's still some standout features with this album. If you're really into more of like the very vibrant, colorful blends of like folk metal and symphonic metal, definitely give this album a shot. But other than that, I can't really tell you the standout tracks because they're all in a different language. But I know the outro track for this album I really enjoy quite a bit because the choirs and choruses are really captivating. But as for the layout and packaging, this was put out through Heritage Records again, so I'm not sure if it's still available, but go there if you're ever so inclined to get it. So you have album artwork, backside again with all the track listings, comes on a gatefold. Once again, another big ass booklet with lyrics and artwork to go along with everything. Double LP again on printed inner sleeves, so you have side A and B, along with side C and side D. And this vinyl pressing comes on orange with black splatter. Second to last within this vinyl collection part is going to be Nuclearhammer, Serpentine Hermetic Lucifer. Yep, believe it or not, it's a war metal band I want to be talking about here because I've always made it known I'm not really crazy for this style of extreme metal, as a lot of bands just focus so much on being aggressive, that there's really no standout features anymore with them. Nuclearhammer, on the other hand, while they are still a war metal band blending again that black metal, death metal, thrash, and all the other extreme genres together, they just have just enough standout characteristics with them that just make it work so well, and this album is just so ass-kicking and just slays so hard. Because for one, the riffs on here aren't just caveman riffs all the time. There's actually like quite a bit of melody for this aggressive approach that you just don't really come across melody for this style. It's also very atmospheric and gives off like that cosmic feel. As well too, the vocals, good lord, are so sinister and just barbaric because they blend the highs and the lows together that it makes it into like this one cohesive sound that just sounds so inhumane and evil. Like it just works with like the atmospheric approach they're going with, and it's just such an ass-kicking album. And finally, the last thing I want to say, it has the best song title ever for a war metal album, that being Phosphorus Clouds Descend on Mecca. I don't care what you say, that is the best war metal song title ever. That song is awesome as well too, but I love that song title. But if you want to get this, Nuclear War Now should still carry copies. This is where I got my copy of it. And it's just such a blast of an album. If you're just looking for ruthless, aggressive, no holds barred, black death war metal, Nuclearhammer is one of the very few bands I would strongly recommend checking out. But anyway, as for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with all the track listings, comes on a gatefold. It also includes an insert sheet with lyrics and band photo. Since it was put out through Nuclear War Now, all these goodies that the label just loves to spoil us with, it also includes a poster with the band logo and album artwork. And this LP edition comes on gray with black splatter with a little bit of blue going on there too. And I don't know if it's going to show, side D is etched with like this kind of like sigil around it. I don't know if that's going to show, but yeah, just so you know, side D is etched. And the final record for this vinyl collection part is also the last record within my collection that starts with N. And that's going to be Nyctophobic, War Criminal Views. Once again, massive thanks to Jimmy from the blog for recommending me this, because when it comes to grindcore and death grind, I'm still quite a newbie with it for the most part, and there's a lot I've yet to explore. And I think he compared this to Insect Warfare in some cases, only I feel like this is just the harsher version of it. That if you're a fan of Insect Warfare, strongly recommend it, because the similarities are definitely there. But I would also say it's a bit more of like a hardcore approach with some of the riffs that are played when it slows down a little bit. And I don't know, just overall it's a blast. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing reinventing the wheel for grindcore, but if you are just you know, a junkie for this style and you just want nothing fancy, straight to the bone grind, Nyctophobic's War Criminal Views has all the characteristics. As I think this album's only like 20 some odd minutes long. There's like over a dozen tracks on here that all range around like the minute to 90-second mark, and it's just, you know, a blast of an adrenaline rush and then it ends. So overall, just really solid stuff. But I got this copy through Nuclear War now as well too, so maybe there's still copies there. It's put out through Grindfather and Fat Ass Records. I'm not sure if these labels are still available, but check regardless. And yeah, that's really it. For the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes with an insert sheet with all lyrics on one side and artwork on the other. And my vinyl edition comes on like this greenish gray color. From what I searched up, every LP edition is on a random color, and this is the one that I got. Alright guys, that'll do it for this vinyl collection part. Like always, links will be provided to everything I've talked about in the description below. And yeah, like always, make sure you guys drink plenty of water to stay hydrated, and have a great day.